All right, so I'm sitting here with trainer Colin Nathan, who's got 7-19 on Chinga, out here boxing in Monaco, defending his IBF world title. Colin, obviously the occasion's big. It's always big when you're fighting for a world title, but also on our Matchroom card here, the hospitality has been really good. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's great to be in Monte Carlo. It's great to be with you, SA Boxing Talk. Just great to be in Monte Carlo. My fourth trip here. I haven't been here in 8 years. The place has really changed. Lots of development, up and coming, and new buildings, and it just seems to be more modernized, if I could say it like that. But yeah, it's great to be with Matchroom. Saw some old friends, Frank Smith I saw earlier. It's great being with him, and I'm sure we'll see Eddie tomorrow at the press conference. And just looking forward to a great event.
Obviously, Sive is yet another guy that you've brought over to Monte Carlo. You've in the past been Heki Butler, Reino Liebenberg. What's your feeling around him here? Is he settled in nicely?
Yeah, I mean, he's looking sharp. The weight's good. He's just in good spirits. He's ready to rumble, and he's ready to defend his championship. And that's pretty much what we're here for. Like, it's not a holiday. I've been to Monte Carlo before. You take a walk around for one day, and you've kind of seen the whole place, and it's great. But obviously all focus and eyes on the defense on Saturday night.
Yeah, more importantly, this is the first time he's actually going to be fighting on a Matchroom card as a Matchroom boxer, if I believe. Is that correct?
That's quite true, actually. I didn't think of it like that, just. So obviously Rumble Africa Promotions did his mandatory back in East London, which was electrifying. Just such a special moment for South African boxing history. And for South African boxing as well. We haven't had a credible world championship in over 7 years. So first fight for Matchroom, and it'll be very successful Saturday night. Looking very forward to that.
I know you operate in a global village. You're always on your phone talking with people all around the world. Obviously, being away and being in a remote location like this, are you still able to, do business as usual?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the Wi-Fi is great. So one of your friends came in earlier, and I was just glued to my phone. So I hope he doesn't think I was being rude. Apologies, dude. So always stuck to my phone. Always just like trying to, see what's next. But it's just great. It's great networking, and obviously my phone doesn't stop 24/7. I'm always keeping it on. So yeah, I'm just busy working on something else for next year, February, March, globally, overseas, and I'm just waiting for that to get over the line, which I'm very confident it will. Not to do with Matchroom, it's something totally separate and different. And I'm being a bit ambiguous, but it'll come, please God, when the announcement comes soon.
Right, an exclusive on SA Boxing Talk to be loaded in the future.
Yeah, we can do something exclusive, no problem. Yeah.
Okay, that's always big news when it hits YouTube and whatnot. Cole, going back home, obviously there's a lot of things going on, especially on the development side of boxing with Boxing 5, and obviously Larry Weinstein's going to be joining us here in Monte Carlo as well as a surprise for him to be coming here as well to enjoy himself. What's happening, back home?
Yeah, so obviously we've got momentum now. We're now licensed with Boxing South Africa. We had a great event the other day coinciding with the semi-finals of the Rugby World Cup. Big up to the Box for winning in France, and we're kind of in a very similar setting with 7-19, and we're gonna defending world champions. That's what South Africa, the Box did, and we're defending our world championship on Saturday, please God, successfully. So just great, and it's great to be back. We've got a lot of youngsters coming through, and that's very important. The talent pool's just growing and growing for Boxing 5. We have our established stock of athletes who are world class, but obviously now the focus for next year particularly is developing the young talent. Tristan Truta, if he wants to come back, we've had discussions. He's back in the gym, losing quite a bit of weight. And Ishmael Khadri is a big part of that. And then Josh Feldman made his debut, Luca Mabetle. So there's just a whole host of young kids that I'm really, really excited about for 2024.
And I know you got obviously a big stake. You're part of the team at Boxing 5, yourself, Larry Riaz. There are fighters, though, that do get opportunities that aren't part of your stable necessarily. Is that going to continue going forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the same what happened with Cape Town's Dylan Prosa. He was never part of Boxing 5, and, we featured him. We did a deal with his promoter in Cape Town, Sava, and the next thing he signed for another promotion, which I'm excited about the kid. I think he's really good. So, we're always looking at featuring other guys, and obviously some of the guys we're not really interested in signing, but obviously the guys that we invested in are signed to us, and we obviously very deeply invested in them and their careers. So, and I mentioned the names. So we're just looking at developing that and obviously turning these young fighters into contenders. And then, please God, some of them will become world class and fight for world championships when the time's right.
I think at the moment, with all the overseas parts that's happening as well, you've got a good balance of youth and experience. And I think one of the guys that's obviously coming through, which we did a post-fight with, is Lorato Glamini. Obviously, massive result for him in Japan. Do you see him getting out early next year?
Yes, and of course, don't forget Katlejo Kanisa, won the provincial championship recently, and I've obviously taken a stance against my guys contesting for provincial and national titles, subject to a new board administratively changing in South Africa. So he's a young prospect who just keeps getting better and better. So yeah, I mean, I just think next year development's going to be a big part of my project. And with regards to Lorato, I mean, look, we're looking at getting him back out in March. It's just waiting for the new IBF ratings to come out, but he's obviously going to be number 2. So either we get a shot or we'll be called for the mandatory. IB is going to be fighting Lopez next. After that, I will be getting a call from the IBF to ask us if we'll be willing to engage in a mandatory. And the answer will be yes. There's also an option for a rematch for Kamita, which I won't say no to, provided the terms are good. I think Lorato's style will beat him again. I think we just got the better of him. And I just think Lorato's got his number. So again, there are options for Lorato. And obviously, he's coming off a great upset performance. And, Japan's very honest and fair when it comes to decisions. And I'm not going to turn that option down. If it's presented to us and the terms are good and it makes financial sense, then we'll look at it.
All right. That makes sense as well. All the boxes sort of, covered under the umbrella. I know you got a lot of boxes, so just such a one-by-one every interview is a bit difficult, so we'll refrain from that. I want to go back to personally, did you think you were ever going to be back in Monte Carlo? I mean, that was obviously something that you were part of a while back, a project.
Yeah, Bernie Pellman's out here with us as well. He's our cut man for the event, and we're actually walking and talking this morning, and I was like, because obviously the place has changed substantially, and I said to Bernie, did you ever think, he said to me, Colin, I never thought we'd be back here. I was like, dude, I was thinking about the same thing this morning. I never thought that I'd be back here. But, the boxing world and the community is really small. And it's just great to be on such a massive event that's going to be on DAZN for Matchroom, one of the powerhouses of global boxing. And they're just good guys. I mean, they're just good guys to do business with, to deal with, to socialize and interact with. So to answer your question, I thought I'd be back here maybe on holiday at some point. But in terms of actually being at an event, I was with Mike Woodstock this morning. It was just great seeing him and catching up. And again, it's just great to be back in Monte Carlo doing boxing.
All right, so here's another one as well. I mean, obviously, there's a good card. Joe Cordina is going to be main headlining the card. Let's talk about the bill itself. I mean, a brief talk about the bill. What is your thoughts on it?
To be fair, I haven't really even looked at the bill, mates. I mean, I know the main event's Joe Cordina and then, main support Sivanati. But other than that, I haven't really taken a look or scrutinized the bill. So you're asking me a question that I'm actually not too familiar with regards to the fight card. So I can't answer that. I'm obviously interested in my kid defending his championship, and Joe Cordina, I've said it to you on previous interviews, he's one of my favorite fighters to watch. So the fact that I'm going to be here watching him is great, but the rest of the card I don't really know, to be honest.
No, fair enough. Let's move over to global things. Nothing to do with any of our boxes. Francis Ngannou, Tyson Fury. It ended up being a split decision. A very close fight. What does that do for boxing? Where does that leave us?
A fucking black eye. It was a fucking disastrous result. Listen, if you had said to me, right, that Fury would get dropped and he would go life and death and get a split decision, I'd probably ask you for a drug test. I'd probably think you were on crack. Now, if you're looking at it on paper coming in, the truth of it is that Ngannou should have been completely out of his depth, but he wasn't. And there's some feel, and I just based on the highlights, because I haven't watched the whole fight. I watched up to round 4 and then actually fell asleep watching it. That Ngannou won the fight. So, and there's a lot of debate going on around the world, like on social media and stuff. So what was going to be a joke on paper turned out to be something far more serious. and it does taint Fury's legacy now, because he was supposed to, on paper, play with Francis, really play with him, and then stop him whenever he wanted to, and that wasn't the case. So I don't think it was a great result for boxing. Obviously the MMA guys are smiling and shining, and credit to them and respect to them and fair play to them, but it was just not a good result for boxing.
So I mean, obviously that's yeah. I mean, do they rematch? Obviously Usyk's got the shot next against Tyson Fury. Does it tarnish that fight?
I don't think it tarnishes the fight, but what I do think, and I was one of those guys who thought that Fury would absolutely blow and go him away. I thought before going in that Fury was just going to be too big and too strong and too good for Usyk. But now you look at it and you think Usyk all of a sudden, from being an underdog, might be the favorite going into that fight. So, and I just read now when you were walking into my hotel room that the fight's been shifted from December to now February. So it's just very intriguing, the fight now. Because before, we all thought Fury was the number one heavyweight. And interestingly enough, you go on BoxRec, he's now number 3, with Usyk number 1 and Joshua number 2, and him being number 3. And he's the linear champion. And that's what is such a fuck up about the fight last weekend, is that Fury was supposed to play with him, and he was supposed to blow him away or stop him whenever he felt. And like I'm saying, the fight, he went life and death with this guy. Dude, he made his pro fucking debut. You know what I mean? It's like inconceivable to think that this guy, and I don't care his background in boxing or his MMA background, it was his first professional fight going up against the linear heavyweight championship or the champion of the world. And you think to yourself, Fury, it was a joke, literally. It was like, for me, it wasn't a fight, it was more an event. But it turned out to be a hell of a fight. And so, yeah, we are now. So there's just so much intrigue with regards to Fury and Usyk. And, let's see. Let's see what happens.
It's crazy that Ngannou almost beat the man that beat the man, type thing.
Like I'm saying to you, he should have been out of his depth, and he wasn't. He was competitive.
All right. So what's the next super fight going to happen in the world?
Next super fight in the world? That's a good question.
Is there a fight for Canelo? Maybe that's a super fight out there. Has he beaten everyone already? Charlo was supposed to be a super fight.
Yeah, but he was always going to beat Charlo. 154 going up to 168 was never going to kind of be competitive because of the size. Benavidez maybe. Andrade if he gets past. I don't know. No. I mean, does he fight Bivol, who's gone very quiet, who's not active? Maybe Bivol should fight Beterbiev. That's a good fight. Beterbiev's ready to right for the taking, I think. And I think Bivol beats him stylistically. But right now, if you look at me and you ask me what's the next super fight, I don't know. Can we get excited for Spence and Crawford again? Or such a one-sided beatdown? No,
What about like a Devin Haney versus Shakur Stevenson? I'm not saying like.
Yeah, I mean, real superstars. Haney's coming off such a controversial win against Lomachenko, and now he's fighting Regis.
That's a good fight.
Yeah, I think all things being equal, Regis looked terrible in his last fight. Are these guys going to level up? So the next super fight, I don't know. It's hard to say. It really is hard to say.
Yeah, no, it is.
I do think, though, we've got superstars. Crawford's a superstar. Monster's a superstar. Canelo's a superstar. I think, if anything, Fury's stock has obviously dropped a little bit, but he's still theoretically the guy to beat in the heavyweight division. So that's intriguing by itself. And then you got Usyk the joke's on Fury now, isn't it? I mean,
but does that kind of make Anthony Joshua not look like how people made him when he fought against Usyk? Because Usyk obviously is really good.
It's hard to say. I thought he lost very convincingly in the first fight, and I thought he lost convincingly in the second, but he was a lot more competitive in the second fight. And again, this is the heavyweight division. Do I think Joshua could beat Usyk? Probably not. But it does make for a lot of intrigue now for Usyk Fury, and I think that's probably the super fight. You're talking about a super fight. That's a super fight to be made for. Well, now it's muted for February, so let's see. And I'll only believe it when both guys are in the ring.
Right, so it's like that with all the big fights, I guess, nowadays. posters get put out, but I mean, getting in the ring.
I just think in today's age, fighters like to marinate fights. And the problem is like Crawford and Spence was marinated for a couple of years. And, like we don't know, Spence no doubt was affected by his car accident. We don't know what would have happened if they fought before the car accident. I'm not suggesting that he's damaged goods. I'm just saying something might have been amiss. So you're looking at a true super fight now. It would have to be Usyk and Fury, and that would be claimed for the first time in history on the 4-belt era that a fight is unified. So if you remember, the last unified champion was Lennox Lewis, but the WBO version was escaping him, or never got made. So this would be the first unified champion, linear champion with the 4 belts in the 4-belt era.
All right, yeah, I look forward to a fight like that. Actually, now it's got a lot of intrigue. It's a lot of question marks hanging over everyone's head. Going back to South African boxing, is there anything that's going to happen in the immediate future? I know there's a Boxing 5 tournament coming up, but the date hasn't been announced yet, and also the fighters haven't been announced yet. But is there anything happening?
Yes, we are busy working on that. Obviously, Larry gets in tomorrow, and we'll be on a conference call with him and Riaz. We're going to finalize a couple of things, but just that's pretty much going to close it for the year for us. Been very disappointing administratively with South African boxing. Just fighters waiting for licenses, managers, trainers, and promoters, and kind of dragging the heels, and it's kind of stagnated the sport, I believe, this year. And also just a lot of the decision making. I mean, you could, like I said to you in a previous interview, you look at these decisions and you just got to roll your eyes and you think like, what the fuck, But look, 2024 is upon us now. We've got to be positive. I believe it's going to be an outstanding year for boxing in South Africa, particularly the youngsters coming through under Boxing 5. And then, we've got some world-class athletes. Sivanati Nonchenga, look for him to still be champion of the world and defending next year. And we've got some really, really talented fighters coming through. Caden Chuta, Lorata Dlamini, Katlego Kanyisa, Sequence Nokotoli. There's some really standout world-class operators under Boxing 5 in my guidance. And I think those are the guys and the energy that I'm going to obviously be putting a lot of energy in towards for 2024.
All right, Cole, I'm going to leave it there. Is there anything else you want to say? Any thank yous, any shout-outs?
No, just big shout-out to you. It's great to be here in Monte Carlo with you. Revive, Brawl, Riakiro, just all my guys, Hotbox, Team Hotbox, No Doubt Management, all the guys. And just a big shout-out to everyone watching this interview. It's great to be talking to you again.
Viva, Cole.
Viva.